Hi, thank you for stopping by the My Reader Minutes. Before I get started, I just want to say that everything on my channel is alleged and, in my opinion, and done for entertainment purposes only. If you are new here, welcome. To all my new subscribers, thank you for joining me on my journey. Please like, share, and subscribe. Now let's get into it. We want to discuss the Love and Marriage Huntsville episode 9, season 8, and I'm only going to take up my read a minute. Not going to be long on this. It starts out with Stormi and her glam squad. They're there to give her a beat to the gods so she can go take a mugshot because she needs to go turn herself in for the 2 warrants that she has on her. I guess it was like a sentimental moment. She was not sentimental, but emotional. She was, a little, nervous in turning herself in. I guess not knowing what to expect, even though I remember a conversation. She's been to jail before, so I don't know what the experience was, but her thing was, I don't know. I guess she was in an emotional wreck. And her glam squad was trying to console her, saying that she needed to center herself and it's going to be okay. She's still an inspiration to people and blah, 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 blah. Courtney's mom was there to offer support. She said she dropped everything and came because family's important to her. And didn't see Miss Betty. Miss Betty didn't show her face to give her daughter, her only daughter, the support that she needed. So Courtney's mom just gave her some words of encouragement, saying you just need to stay prayed up. Based on where she's at in life, people are going to come at her, so she needs to prepare and be ready to stay prayed up. So she was grateful that she was there for her, and I think it was. And I really do. I think it was genuine. Courtney's mom seems like a really nice lady. So the next segment, I believe they show Tisha pulling up and she's meeting Destiny and Trisha. They're going to make candles. Before I get into that whole thing, what they were discussing, did y'all take a look at what Tisha was wearing? Who is she advertising for? It ain't Marcel. I'm just saying. Where was she going? You wear that to go make candles? Booty shorts? Thigh-high boots? Or where was she coming from? Or where was she going to afterwards? Like, what? The outfit didn't go with the activity. I'm just saying. It didn't go with the activity. Anyway, they all hook up, they meet. She gives Destiny a hug, and Trisha shows up, and blah, 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 blah. And they all sit down, and Destiny makes a comment saying, Tisha wasn't at the Lovers and Friends Gala, and she didn't go to Nell's party. So they have a lot of catching up to do. They didn't really talk about Nell's party, but they did talk about the gala and how Moses and Sonny were there. And she says that Sonny's just pretty much insecure. She told her that, he was sleeping with he's still sleeping with everybody in St. Louis. And her thing is, no, he's not, because I'm with him every day type thing. He only did that with her. Okay, yep, he changed. He ain't the same person now that he's married. She said that I think Tisha asked her, she said, do you think you could get him back if you wanted? She said, oh, cool, no question. There's no doubt about it. Now, when she was on the interview with Dr. Heavenly asked her that question, and her thing was, well, I don't want him anymore. She kind of like scooted around the fact that she probably could get him back, or maybe she's doing it now. Who's to say? Because I really think that I don't care what Moses or who Moses thinks he's with. He's going to deal with whoever he wants to deal with whenever he wants to deal with them. If he was like that with Destiny, more than likely he's like that with Sonny. People don't usually change who they are. They might change their tactics and their methods, but they are who they are. People usually don't change unless something devastating or drastic has to happen to upheaval their life type thing. Anyway, she said, "There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I can still get him." Yeah, that was interesting. So then they move on to um, Stormi and Courtney. I guess Courtney is picking her up from the police station. Her thing was like she was there all of 15 minutes and wasn't as bad as she thought it was going to be. So, even though she said she went through all of the emotions, she had a panic attack. She was devastated. She was, fearful. She was crying. She said she had to have one of the police officers sit with her. And she said, even though I was in there for 15 minutes with handcuffed, she said it was just, I think more so it's humiliating. Like, why am I here? It's like, what is going on? Anywho, that whole situation, I'm confused because I feel like they're trying to spin it a certain way on the show. I actually remember the video that BT did when she was looking for her establishment. It was BT and she had a guy with her, and I think he had a camera. And I remember they were looking, I guess they had gone to the last location where she was supposed to have been, but she moved. So they were looking for her. Now, I don't know what BT's motives were. She made it seem like after the fact that she was there to purchase products. I don't know who goes to a warehouse of establishment to purchase products or whatever. Usually try to find a local retail store where the products are being sold. Or at least ask someone, but I don't think she had an opportunity to even do that anyway, because when they found the location, I want to say one of them was outside. It was either Courtney or Stormi. And I remember her husband actually first saying, "Get away from here, don't be filming around here, blah, 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 blah." And once Stormi caught hold of what was going on, then she came outside and they didn't film her, but I could hear her and she was cussing at them. And so she said, "Okay, okay." And I remember BT said, "Okay, okay, we're leaving. And the guy that was with her had more mouth than BT. And she was like, "No, just come on. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna do that." Because I think Stormi she threatened to call the police. And she was like, "Oh, well, it's not that, it's not that serious." She said, I think she might have said I was here to buy products or whatever. And her thing was like, "You're weird. You're a weirdo." Or blah, blah. And she went on and on. I remember that video, but they spin it a different way on the show. Like, I can't remember. Then I think she went to social media, Stormi that is, and said all this stuff and made it seem like she was suffering from depression or something like that. I can't remember. It was something crazy that went on. But anywho, so she turned herself in and she was just explaining that she was hurt that her mom didn't give her any support, and she's like, that hurt her feelings. And, she said, and she made a point to say it's not the first time her mom has done that she wasn't really there for her. Evidently, there's a rocky relationship there. And Miss Betty, I think, is just mean. She's just mean. And I feel like this now. Now that I can see how she treats her daughter, supposedly her one and only, I don't expect her to treat nobody else any differently. So whatever she's saying and talking about Mel, that's a given. Because that's who she is. She's just mean. And I've already written that off. Like, whatever. Whoever she comes after next is just going to have to get it. That's who she is. It doesn't justify her actions, but I don't expect anything different from her. She can speak and do the things that she has done to her own flesh and blood, her child who she gave birth to. Nobody else stands a chance. That's where I'm at with it. So anyway, next, next scene. Okay, so the next scene there, I think it's Trisha, and um, Trisha is inviting her family. They actually show a little segment of her talking to her kids first. She's a handsome son. Son is really handsome and a cute little girl. And she talks to them about how they feel her moving on and marrying her, Ken. And her son was really mature about it. He was like, well, her daughter was like shaking her head, like, yeah. And she said, because I get my sister now. And her thing was like, yeah, you get a sister. And I think he said, he made it seem like whenever he's around or whenever they come over, you know, he makes her a little softer, which I was really like impressed for him to even say that about his mom. She said, yeah, he makes you a little softer, mom. And, you seem to be really happy and, enjoying yourself. You're laughing and joking. He said, yeah. So I guess her kids had signed on and she was fine. And I guess the conversation surprised her because I guess she didn't expect it to go as well as it did. But they were very mature. Both her kids were very, very nice kids. So then I guess she said, well, since I've already had the conversation with my children, she said, I guess I need to tell the rest of the family. So they show her sister showing up and they have a discussion and it's almost like she dropped the bombshell on her sister. Her sister was like with her mouth open, like, what? Like she had no idea that her and her, I forgot what she said his name was. Her and her husband were separated and that they had been separated for 4 years. Her thing was like, what? For 4 years. And she was just letting her sister know that no, there's no love there. It's not what I want to be with anymore. We thought we were young. She said we got married. She said, really think we got married because we had kids. And, we were hoping that it lasted, but we both realized that we are not for one another. And her sister was like, more like in the beginning was like, well, you should have called me and talked to me before she explained to her that they've already talked about separating or whatever, being apart. And the sister was like, well, you can call and you can tell me anything. She said, because I would have talked to you and tried to work this out, get y'all back together, da da da. And her thing was like, no, that's not what we want. And she was like, well, you sure this is what you want, you and Ken, and da 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 da. So she was like, yeah, this is what I want. This is what we gonna do. So she was like, okay, it's about her happiness. She said, if it makes you happy, that's what matters. And she was happy to hear that her sister was on her side, thinking that, it ain't helped her sister anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Right? Right. So the next scene, Courtney invites the guys out bowling. And it's not Marcel. It's he don't care for the Scott brothers. So Courtney only invited Chris, Martell, and Ken, right? And so Martell, Chris, and Courtney, they arrive first or whatever. And then Ken walks in. And so they're all talking and they were just, shooting the bobo. And then out of the blue, Ken says, Trish was really mad with you because you act like you ain't know her over Stormi's house. Ken says, Trish was really mad with you because you act like you ain't know her over Stormi's house. Yeah. They're like, what? So, so Chris is like, well, why is she mad? Why is she mad? You don't know her. How do you know her, Martell? And so Martell looked like he's being put on the spot. and is like, well, I know her through my brother, and through Martez. And no, he said first, he said, I know her through my brother. And they're like, oh, okay, okay. Or no, he said she's cool with my brother. But then he turns around and said, but that's not how I met her. So they were like, well, how did you meet her? And he was like, I met her out. I met her out. And she told me she knew my brother. And so they were like, so I'm assuming that Ken already knows if anything happened or if they had any type of relationship, he already knows, because he turned his head and he made the comment to say, well, whatever happened before me was before me. And he understands that Huntsville is very, very small, and it's easy for people to, have been with each other, if they've grown up in Huntsville. And his thing is, you know, it doesn't surprise me if anybody has gotten with Trisha, because she's a beautiful woman, blah, 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 which was a very mature way to look at it. Like, everybody has a past. And we know Martell, how he gets down. Okay. So then they start talking about, the relationship between him and Trisha. And so I think Chris asked him, are y'all engaged or whatever? He was like, well, not really, because she's still married. Technically, she's still married. And he goes and explains that her and her man her and her husband have been separated for 4 or 5 years. And he said, and I ain't about to sit around for 4 or 5 years. He said, it's no time frame, but there is a time frame. He said, I'm not going to be sitting around 5 or 6, 7 years waiting for her to get this divorce or whatever. And so Martell looks at him and said, oh, you her side dude? Get out of here, Martell. Get out of here. Okay. So he just shook his head and he was like, no, ain't no side dude. He think everybody got a side piece because he got a side piece. That's what I'm thinking. He want everybody to have a side piece. He's still calling Nell a side chick. Anyway, so then he was like, I think Martell said, well, do you want to marry her? Is that what? And Ken said, well, that's the goal. We do want to, be married or whatever. And so then they start talking about Martell, because Martell says, yeah, I want to be married again too. And so Chris looks at him, he's talking about, who, to your baby mama? And he just hesitates and looks at him like, don't do that, Chris. Don't do that. And my thing is, if you want to marry your baby mama, Martell, marry. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody's checking for neither one of y'all. She won. I'll be like, Destiny, you won, right? You won. Her and Sonny, they winners. They winners in this episode. Okay? But he doesn't claim her still. My thing was, I was Arion, I'd be like, what's wrong with saying you want to marry me? You just sat up here and had a whole baby with me. He's about to be 44, and yet you keep talking about how you want to get married, but not to me, because he's not saying yeah. And so even Chris said, well, who, what you think, you're gonna meet somebody, you're gonna be like Sonny and Moses and just meet them and then get married, go run off to Vegas and get married? His thing was like, he wants to be married, but I took it that he don't want to marry Arion. But why not marry Arion? Because guess what? Because she's not a partner. She's not one to get up and go get him. She wants to be a kept woman. That's why he don't want to marry Arion. She's always going to be a bill, not contributing to the household. Mel was out there grinding with him. That's how they could do it. Even though he was home most of the time with the kids, because she had the know-how and the skill and the, stuff to move and groove. Not that he didn't, but he was the brawn. She was the brains. He was the brawn of their whole setup. But he don't have a brain with. Wait a minute, that didn't come out right. I'm not saying she's not capable of doing whatever it needs to do for them to be a good partnership. But for what I've seen, I don't feel like she has that business acumen that he needs to be, propelled higher than where he is. Okay. So yeah, there's that. So but my whole thing is so then so Martel says, well, it's gonna just be hard to find someone that's going to accept that I got 5 kids and I have them 7 days on, 7 days off. And Courtney says, unless you marry, and I'm assuming he meant the baby mama. And he was like, all right, Courtney. And so he got a little salty in his confession. He was like, they sitting around laughing at me. He said, they're going to mess around and not be invited to my wedding. Boy, bye. Who cares who you marry? God bless the person that comes in your life. If it ain't Ariane, I don't think Ariane really want to marry you anyway, but I think she would just to say she won. I'm the wife. Yeah. So then the next scene is Stormi and her mama. Her mama comes over and I think she comes downstairs and she said she had been on her phone playing her game or something. And Stormy said, you are always on that phone. And she says, yeah, I like being on my phone. I learned a lot. She said, what you learn? You learned nothing. And so she said, did you see the picture that I posted of your grandbaby? And Miss Betty said, yeah, I saw me look nice or whatever. She said, are you ready for another one? She said, I sure am. And then she discussed with her mother how her and Courtney are talking about getting a surrogate because of all of the complications that she had the last time. So she said, let's go outside. And so they go outside and they start to talking. And Stormy basically says, her feelings were hurt because she didn't come around when she needed her, when she had to, turn herself in. And Miss Betty's coming up with all these excuses about, I can't get up in the middle of the night no more, and this, that, and the other. And she said, it wasn't getting up in the middle of the night. She said, I called you because I had to turn myself in that next morning. I didn't ask you to come over there in the middle of the night. She said, well, I have your 80-year-old mom, grandmom living with me, blah, blah, blah. Her thing was this, I needed my mother. And and she said, what, and when I called you, you're going to tell me, well, that's what you get for being on reality TV. What? Miss Miss Betty? What? Miss Betty is just she's mean. She is mean. And with this segment between her and Stormy, ultimately, she goes through all these different changes, all these different excuses why she didn't come over, why she didn't, why she couldn't come over and all this stuff, and how there's a certain group of people that, since you've been on this TV show, because you have certain people in your circle, have these, I guess she's talking about the millimeters too, and saying that all they do is look to elevate a certain person and destroy everybody else. The millimeters need a seat at the reunion. How about that? They need to invite all the millimeters, put them in the audience, and have like certain ones sit up on the reunion stage because they have a role in this season because everybody is bringing them up. They need a chair or sofa, not a chair, but a sofa for at least 5 of them. Put 5 of them on there, the most vocal ones. Maybe not Here for Hot Tea, but I would nominate Here for Hot Tea. I would nominate True Tea. I don't know. True Tea, that doesn't say she's a millimeter, though. I don't know if she says she's a millimeter. I know Here for Hot Tea is. Maybe Trending at some point, and the 3 ladies. Here for Hot Tea, Trending at some point, and I think Journey to Jasmine or something like that, whatever her name is. Maybe those 3. Tay Talks, Drop the Mic, and what's the other lady? Drop the Mic. Brown Skin Girl. Like, have those 6 sit up there, right? And represent the millimeters because they're crazy. They actually have given the millimeters a role. Anyway, she said that all they do is they want to elevate, and that's where that word activate came from. I didn't know that she had said that, but she was like, yeah, all she says is activate, and then they go to destroy everybody else or tear everybody else down, calling their businesses, and I'm like, wow, that's so crazy. That is so crazy. Anyway, so at the end of that conversation, she finally says, she said, Mama, I just want an apology. And she said, that's not what I do. And she was like, what? And she was like, well, I'm sorry that had to happen. I mean, she was saying all kinds of stuff, so she wouldn't say she was sorry. Then she went to go talk about, well, my dad used to say, you got to let your butt hit the ground so you can learn something. What? That's that. Oh, my God. Miss Betty. And finally, she just said she was sorry. I was like, dang, it was like pulling teeth. Your one and only child, and you can't say you were sorry you wasn't there for her and she needed you. I don't care how old she gets. She's always going to need her mama. She is, Miss Betty's mean. She's mean. Her sister don't like her. It doesn't sound like her and Stormi had the best relationship. She loves her because that's her mother, but they didn't have the best relationship. She said because she said that particular time reminded her when they weren't in a good place and they were like apart. I even think she said something about she didn't even come to the wedding on time. Miss Betty seemed like she's been a piece of work her entire life. She's been a piece of work. So, like I said, however she treats her daughter, don't think that she's gonna treat nobody no better than when she treats Stormi. If she can treat Stormi like that, then and nobody else really has a chance. So, anyway, so that is pretty much it. It goes off and it talks about the preview. It shows the previews for next week. Next week, it shows Martell and Stormi talking about how Tristan came over his house a couple times. What's that about? Like you left that part out. Because her thing was their energy was off when they were over her house because it was given more like they had something deeper. And she goes, and then Martell says, well, she did come over my house a couple of times. Have y'all been together? Have y'all not? Why are y'all dragging this out? Ken already said whatever happened before he got in the picture on the scene, he don't care. But that just goes to show that she was messing around on her husband because they've been married for 14 years. Unless it was during that time where they were already separated. That's what they're gonna say. But I don't know. Anyway, please like, share, subscribe. This live, this video is too long. I've been talking my butt off. I didn't mean for it to go this long. I'm sorry, y'all. This is longer than I might read a minute. But please like, share, subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I'm trying to grow my channel. Please join me on my journey. Everybody, be blessed. Peace.